at how we can create Python code that uses the ChatGPT API and can answer any user question. To do that, we will use some of the API keys, and I will create a new PyCharm project to write the code. So let's write PyCharm. Let's select a new project, and I will call this project ChatGPT demo. So let's run that. And here is our project automatically opened in PyCharm. So I'll create a new Python file here called main.py. And now here, let's first import OpenAI. Okay, and I will install this package. If you're using other IDE, you can also install the OpenAI by simply opening the terminal, okay, and installing the package in your virtual environment. When you're working with Python, it is very important to understand that all the Python basic code is located here in this folder virtual environment, so you don't need to install all the libraries and dependencies on your local computer, but instead you can install all the libraries for a particular project into this virtual environment folder. So when I open the terminal, I automatically install all the packages that I write in the terminal into this virtual environment, but not in my computer. So you can simply do pipe install OpenAI, okay, and you can see that the OpenAI will start installing in your virtual environment. And you can see that if I go back to the project, this error is no longer presentable. So this warning here is due to the fact that I didn't use yet the OpenAI, but we will do that now. So now the very first step is to create your API key. So let's write here, use OpenAI API key. So this is just a comment, and then I will do OpenAI dot API key equals, and here I will place my API key. So let's go to your account, select personal, view API keys, and after that, here in the API keys, I will select create new secret key. Here is the key. Let's copy this key, click OK. Then I'll go back to the application and paste the key. So now you have access to your account in the OpenAI. You should make sure that you keep this key safe, because everybody who uses this key will actually use your account for his or her API application, which means that the OpenAI will charge you for that. So the idea of the today project is that the user will be able to type a question in the terminal using your Python code, and then OpenAI will send the answer in the same way as if you would use the GPT chat. So let's write here question, and this variable will hold the question that we want to ask. So I'll use input so I can prompt the user to write the question, and then let's write what would you like to ask OpenAI, and let's do question mark and space, and then let's write a comment here. Okay, then the next few lines are actually the most important and are the brain of our project, because here we will actually assess the GPT-3 API. So I write response equals to OpenAI dot completion dot create, and here you need to pass all of those parameters for which we talked about while we were using the playground. So let's first pass the model. So let's do engine equals, okay, and here you need to place the name of the engine. So since I want to use text DaVinci 3, I will just write the name of that model. If you want to check all the models, you can go to documentation, click on models, then overview, and here you can see the different types of models and also their names. So I want to use the DaVinci 3, so I will click Ctrl C and then Ctrl V. Okay, so this is my model. Then let's write prompt, and this is what we will be sending to the artificial intelligence. So here I will pass my question. Okay, then let's place comma here. Cut. So idea is that the user writes the question, it assigns it to the variable question, and then we send it to the OpenAI. Then let's write how many tokens we would like to use. So let's do max tokens equals, and let's make our response to have maximum 1024 tokens. Then there is this parameter called n, and this is actually something we didn't talk about, but this is the number of responses that you would like to have. Normally, you should always keep this parameter equal to 1, just because that would mean that you want only one response, the most probable response of your question. If you make n equal to 2, then you will get two responses, the most probable and the second most probable response. But in our case, we want n to be equal to 1. Then let's do stop equal to none, since I don't want to specify when my code should stop. And finally, let's define the temperature. Okay, this will be equal to 0.8. So this means that we want to lean towards more accurate responses of our questions rather than variety. Now, once you send that, you have your answer in the response. And as I said, the more ends you have, the more responses you have. And for that reason, the response is not just a string, but it is actually a list of different responses. Right now we have only one response, but in order to get the specific answer, what you need to do is write answer equals to response, then we will assess choices at position 0, and then I will assess the text from the most probable response. And finally, let's print our response, and I'll actually print it down here to the terminal. So you can do print OpenAI, okay, plus answer. So that's it. As you can see, this is the complete code. It took exactly 20 lines of code, even less, for me to create a simple application, or we can actually call it a simple Python script to access the OpenAI API and ask GPT-3 a question from our own application. So let's run this file. You can simply click here and select run main, and you can see that once you do this, you stop on this line here and you can write your question to the artificial intelligence. So let's say I want to know how many suns are there in the universe, okay? And don't worry about if you make some typos in your question, the AI will be able to still understand your question because it understands human language with its mistakes. Okay, so I will click enter here. So we send our question to the OpenAI, and then the response will take a little bit of time. But you can see that you immediately got a reply from the OpenAI that they are an estimated of 76 trillion 7 followed by 22 zeros stars in the universe, most of which are similar to Sun. So actually imagine how many suns and how many planets there are out there. Anyways, you can see that you successfully were able to communicate with the OpenAI API. So I want to show you now how different the response is from the answer that we extract from that response. If I just copy and paste the response here and we print it, and I just make it to be a string, so let's do str response. Okay, so let's run our code again and let's ask actually the same question. How many suns are there in the universe? Okay, so let's ask this question, and you can see that our response is actually much more than a text. So here you're having your choices array, and you can see that here from the response we're going to choices, right? Then we're taking the first element, which is this one, and from there we're taking the text. This is how actually we're getting the text. But you can see that there is also other data, and with this data you can improve your application because you can detect the model, the object used, the number of tokens used, the prompt tokens, the total tokens, and so on. This is also the time in which your response were created. So you can see that there is a lot of metadata. It's not just your answer, which you can use for your advantage when you create applications. So that was everything for this section, guys. Now you know how to use the OpenAI API, and in the next sections, we'll start progressively to build end-to-end applications that you can either use in your resume or sell them online and make money from them. That's it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next